Hello, my name is,
Ricardo Moreira.
but my friends call me.
Rico,
I was born in the year,
1984.
and I am.
Soon to be 40 years old.
Ooh. But people tell me that I look like.
39.
I was born in,
Rio de Janeiro, Brazil.
but I live in.
Orlando, Florida.
At school, I always excel,
In sports.
and I hate it.
Math.
You look like a soccer player now. My childhood dream was to be,
A soccer player.
but I also saw myself doing.
Something related to soccer at some point in my life.
My first job was as a,
Intern in a law firm.
but now I work as a.
Vice President of Soccer Operations and Technical Director.
I've been in this role for,
6 years.
and I sign a total of, how many players?
50.
When I have time, I always escape to.
Do something related to soccer.
And when guests come to my house, I always prepare.
Barbecue.
In the future, I see myself as a.
That's a tricky one. I don't see myself doing anything other than what I do today.
Fair. Cool. That's the intro.
That's good. I like it. That's good.
I do the same intro to everybody.
That's
the
nice.
the same one.
I like.
So a little bit about your journey. I know that you study law.
Yep.
How did you do that transition to sporting director and why?
I was can I go back a little bit and
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
about the dream and
Please,
etc.
please.
So when I was since I was a little kid, I think I was like 7 or 8, I dreamed about being a soccer player. Maybe me and 95% of the Brazilian kids, the dream was to be a soccer player and to be the new Zico, Romario, or Ronaldo.
Right.
But at some point in my life, talent told me otherwise. It wasn't, it wasn't a bad agent. It wasn't my knee, as the excuse a lot of people use.
I've heard it so many times.
I think you heard that a couple of times, right? But I played until I was like 18 years old and trying to be a professional. I played futsal for quite a long time in big clubs in São Paulo, Brazil. And I thought I could make a living out of futsal. And then I transitioned to the field. And it was a little bit more difficult for
Right.
me. I had some issues adapting to a different type of game. I was a striker, number 9. I wasn't scoring a lot of goals in the beginning.
Right.
And thankfully, and very different from the reality of the South American and Brazilian players, I could say that I had options. Coming from a good background, from a family that was providing me with everything that I needed. I was studying a good school and a private school. And at some point around my 17 to 18 years old, I decided that I was going to go in a different route.
Right.
And I would use my, maybe the hunger that wasn't there to become a soccer player, because in the end, I think I could. The question is, in what level, right?
Right.
The hunger came afterwards for me to do what I do now. So it was in the 2002, 2003 when I decided to do that, to become a sporting director eventually. I thought that the quicker route to do so was to study law.
Right.
Because I saw the trend of lots of former lawyers and former players becoming sporting directors in Brazil and Europe.
So your choice to be a lawyer was because you already had the end goal to.
The end goal was always something related to football.
That's awesome.
Yeah, football, soccer was always, it's always going to be the end goal, and it was
Right.
already back then. And then I started studying law in a university in Brazil that is quite similar to the system that we have in the USA. So I had a scholarship to play. So I played soccer for the university. At some point during school, I came to the US to play in NCAA First Division in Towson University in Baltimore. I got injured. I never made it. But it was...
Your knee?
No, that time was the ankle, but that was for sure. That was true. That's a true one. That's a tricky one. You got me here, but yeah, that time was the ankle. I had like 3 or 4 surgeries in my ankle.
Right.
That's why I don't do the flip flap with my right foot. I only do the left one. But it was a good experience, Uri, because I could see what that was around 2005, 2006, and I could see like a small university with a great facility for
Right.
soccer. And I was like, and I'm a fan of one of the biggest clubs in Brazil. the soccer country, as they say, and they didn't have any training facilities,
not even,
no stadium, no facilities,
not
nothing.
even close to what it's
So I
here,
look
right.
back then, I was like, man, then that was 2005, 2006, and now you see the facilities, the stadiums in MLS,
Right.
and in university. A couple of days ago, we're playing in Columbus, and you see like the new facilities of Columbus. You see the Ohio State
Right.
University facilities is something amazing that only the United States provide for people,
Right.
for the students, and for the sports fans, for every sport. And I thought there was something there. When I went back to Brazil, I finished law school, and I put a goal that I was gonna be a sporting director abroad. How? I had no idea. I had no clue. So I started working as a sports lawyer, and I worked in this field for up to 6 or 7 years. Started to get in contact with agents, with players, transfers, negotiations. We represented many clubs in the FIFA courts, in the Court of Arbitration for Sports. So that gave me a background of understanding a little bit what was it to be in a side of the table that I never was, right? Because my whole life I was trying to be a soccer player.
Right.
So I was always with the player mentality. I was always talking to myself as a player. I was always like pretending that I was a soccer player, like inside my head, how a negotiation would be, how I'm going to be doing an interview, how I'm going to be interacting with people. So it was something like, as kids, and you have the illusion,
Yeah.
you have something in your head that tells you that you're going to be a soccer player. So it was a moment that was really important for me, not to only get the knowledge of the legal side of the business itself, which helps me until today how to interpret a contract, a law, how to negotiate, and etc. But to change the ship in my mind that you're not a soccer player, you're never going to be a soccer player anymore. So now you have to focus on something else. And one thing led to another. I left the law firm and started working as a sporting director for one of our clients. Fun fact about that is that I was that was 2012 probably. I was in Europe with my now wife. We met each other at the law firm that we were working. It's one of the biggest law firms in South America, so thousands and thousands of lawyers. And we met there, and I proposed to her in Europe. And the first day that I went back to Brazil, I quit my job. And I told her, yep, we're going to get married. Now is the time for me to pursue my dream and work in a soccer club.
Wow.
So I quit, and 2 months later I started working in a very small third division Brazilian club. First as a lawyer, and then I became the sporting director. But now looking back, she was really brave because this guy proposed it, and now he quit his job. You know what is going to happen with me now?
But you were smart. You did it with the right order. It's not like let's move and then you propose.
Exactly. I proposed it when I was safe.
You secured it. You secured it.
I proposed it when everything was safe. And then one thing led to another. I started working in this really small club, but very structured, very professional. They gave me a lot of lessons. We did quite well. We made it to the first division of the Paulista. We almost got champions. I was working there with Fernando Diniz. Fernando Diniz was the champion of Libertadores last year with Fluminense, a great coach,
right.
Great mind. And I was scouted by Columbus Crew. Right. That what brought
and
me
also
to MLS.
When you work with the smaller clubs, you have more things to do.
You do everything.
Right? You do everything. You're exposed and you learn more of the business instead of you just...
I was doing negotiations. I was dealing with the players. I was dealing with the coach. I was taking care of the equipment.
Right.
I was doing everything I was doing logistics because we just didn't have the staff. We didn't have the money, the budget to invest in other areas. But still, was a very the club is called Grêmio Audax. It's one of the few private-owned clubs back in the days in Brazil. Now it's something quite common. Mm-hmm. The majority of the clubs back then they were non-profit civil associations.
Right.
So that's one of the things that also caught my attention. What I think was the drive for me to become a sporting director was seeing how sporting directors or managers in Brazil were managing the clubs with no responsibility to the money, to
right.
the people, to the fans,
right.
to the management, to the good management as a whole, right? So I was always very critical of the way they were dealing with that. So I always thought like, okay, you're dealing with someone else's money, someone else is investing on this. You have to be responsible. So that's what that was the the feeling that I have, like to drive change.
I can do better.
I can do better. I think
Right.
people should do better because it's not your money, it's not your club. You just sit in this chair for a couple of years, so you gotta do well because obviously you want to win championships and you want to do everything to do so, to achieve your goals, your
Right.
objectives. But there are ways to do that. So I
Right.
think that was inside in the back of my head. That was the thing that was driving me to make a change, to try to do differently. So that's what brought me here, I think.
Right. What do you think are the qualities that a sporting director needs to have?
I think many. I would say now that I'm a little bit more experienced in this role, I would say to be a people's person. I would say because I found it was not easy because it's a constant challenge. Because I think the challenge in this role for me, it's me against myself. It's leadership is very lonely anywhere. You have friends, obviously you have people that want to succeed, they want to support you, they want to, but at the end of the days, you are selling ideas, you are selling a project to ownership, to the players, to the fans, to your peers, to the people that work with you. So you got to be someone of the people. And what I say, it's not like you got to be nice to everybody. No, you have to try to create a good culture among the club, among the people that work with you, because that's the only way I believe people will give everything that they have. And that's the only way I think people and the club can get to its goals and get to its objectives. Obviously, we've seen toxic, tough environments where clubs and people succeed.
Right.
But I don't think that's the right way of doing things. So I think I became a professional, a sporting director, much more worried and concerned about people's feelings and how I can be someone that will drive change, growth within the community, within the club, rather than only focusing on winning. I think that the small wins throughout the day, throughout the weeks, throughout the months, will get the club to be in a direction of winning and creating a winning and positive mentality. So I think that's the most important thing that I've developed in the latest years, and I think that's something that I believe sporting directors should be aware of. It's a very stressful business. It's non-stop, 24/7. If you don't take care of yourself first and then of the people,
Right.
you're gonna sink.
Yeah, because it seems like even if you are winning, you always have to think, okay, what's next, right? And if you are losing, you gotta find ways to change it too. So how do you deal with like constantly being able to deliver and being on
I like
food?
I like to think that the office. I try to face the office as I would face a locker room, and you've been there. You're winning, you're losing, you're surviving in the locker room. You're surviving throughout the weeks, throughout the games, throughout the months, throughout the years. And if you don't have a positive environment, if you don't have people, maybe you don't need a positive. You're not friends with everybody. Players are not friends among themselves with everyone, but they're all fighting for the same objective. The moment you have someone that is thinking otherwise,
Right.
you have a problem, and you have to have people and leaders that will identify that sort of thing, right? But I think the way to survive is again to try to create a good environment.
Good environment.
You have to take care of yourself first, and then you have for you to have the ability to influence other people as well.
So usually now that you are looking to get some players, if we talk to the young guys, what do you look for in a young player when you want to get them?
I think one of the other things that I've learned with experience, especially in a league where you have almost now 30 clubs looking into the same markets, looking into the same players with some sort of the same budget, to create a competitive advantage on and off the field, I think your scouting department, your sporting directors, technical staff must have a way of identifying good character. Sometimes talent's not enough. And I always say, like, the best talent, not every time will be the right talent for your club. So the fit is what matters the most for me. The cultural fit, The tactical fit, the technical fit, obviously, but the culture, character fit is most important. Every club has, and as a leader, as a sporting director, as a head scout, as a head coach, you have to identify and to know what is the culture that is being built in your locker room, what kind of player will fit in that environment or not. And listen, and when I talk about culture, when I talk about things like that, people always think, okay, that's Orlando City, you're a very Latin club, so it's easier, you guys are going to recruit in South America because that's the culture fit. Maybe that's the easiest culture fit for us in the reality that we are building in Orlando City now. But we have an Icelandic player, we have a Swedish player, we have a Norwegian player, we have a Slovenian player, we have Americans, we have Canadians, we have Europeans, we have South Americans. It's not about this kind of culture. It's players that you can identify will fit in a way that they're going to participate in the common goal of the club. And now we're in a position that the only thing that matters for Orlando City right now is to win. I think we've proven already everything that we had to prove. Now we have to win. Otherwise, we haven't achieved our goal. So we have to bring players with this sort of mentality to the club, and that's a fine tune that you need to find while recruiting the players. And how do you identify that? You identify that with psychological assessments, but in the interview, in the face-to-face, in the one-on-one, eye-to-eye with the player. Sometimes I have cases in the club, and I'm not going to mention the player obviously, but that the scouts went to games and that the players never made it to the field. They were on the bench for 90 minutes, but I have complete and detailed reports of how the player reacted while warming up,
right,
while receiving instruction from the strength and condition coach, from the coach, their reaction when the team scored a goal, their reaction when the team conceded a goal, because then you see the character of the player, if you see if the player is involved in the team or not.
That's amazing. Yeah, never thought about that.
It's easy to find the talent. To see the Neymars, to see the Messis and the Cristiano is everything can see that on a weekend basis. Sometimes there was I remember starting my career, I was scouting in South America for Columbus Crew, and back days it was MLS 1.0, right? So we were scouting players that were not playing, that were in the under 20s without a chance of progressing in the clubs that they were in South America, etc. So it was really difficult to identify the players that could succeed in this league. And I was talking to the scouts of Chelsea, Manchester United, Manchester City, Barcelona. They were like, no, our job, and the players that we are recruiting, either players that everybody know who they are. Everybody are watching them on the weekends. It's the Gabriel Jesus, it's the Vinicius Juniors, it's the Paquetá, the Neymars.
Yeah.
So for them, that's what I'm saying. For them, back then, it was like, okay, this type of player, they would choose eventually where they will play. Right? Vinicius Junior dreamed of playing for Real Madrid. Well, he's in Real Madrid. Neymar dreamed about playing for Barcelona. He went to Barcelona first. But in this kind of level, the culture fit is also important, because there are some players that, and you know that by fact, by speaking with these people, sporting directors and scouts of these biggest clubs, they're like, oh, this guy's not for us. He doesn't have what it takes to play in a club like Barcelona with such a unique culture, with it's a unique
style.
It's a unique style of play and a unique culture of the club. You got to understand El Barcelonismo. Otherwise, you're not going to play there.
Right.
The same thing, Real Madrid, the Chelseas, and the Manchester Cities of the world.
Right. No, it makes sense. And also, like, the qualities, do you speak personally before signing them? Is it like, do you have like a script or template? Okay, I gotta check all these boxes before I sign them, meaning going to see them live, maybe speaking with them at some point before do all of that, or there's sometimes that you just, okay, I gotta get this guy no matter what, forget about it?
No, every time. Not gonna say that I've never done that.
References.
Never say that I've never done that, but every time in my career that I've done, or that I've seen someone doing it, and I say, like, not respecting the process that you created in the club, whatever process you have, respect the process, like, trust the process. I know it's very cliche, but it works in the sense that every time that I've seen someone, or even myself, not respecting the process that we created, we failed. And why? Because, I don't need to interview this player now because I already have plenty of assessments on them. No. You got to be there. You got to show yourself. You're the sporting director, or you're the head scout, or you're the coach. You got to be involved in the process. We have and I think I've learned that from many other sporting directors and reading a lot. I'm very academic in this sense, as you know, like plenty of courses and studies, and I always try to connect with people in my network to understand what are the trends, what are people doing now. And I believe that when you create a process, again, follow the process, trust the process, because that's the only way you're going to succeed in this career sitting in a sporting director chair. I think the most important thing nowadays, because of technology, because the easy access that you have to video, to stats, to data, is to watch the player live. Not only once or twice. You have to watch the player 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. The process that I like to do is using data to filter players, because in MLS, as you know, we scout everywhere. In MLS, you're scouting the high-end DPs,
Right.
the masses, and you're also scouting like the opportunities in different countries that maybe you don't have a scout there, or many information from your network from this whatever country. But I think so that's why I think analytics data is good for a first filter.
Right.
We created a system where we've created algorithms that will identify players that will better fit in our game model. So among this list of among a universe of 5,000 players, we can filter to 100.
Right.
And then you filter by age, by the price, by the transfer market value of the player. And you go like, let's say, to 20, 25 players. There are the options for the X position that you want to recruit.
Right.
And then after you do that, the scouts will give their assessment on the player, first by video. After the player passes this other filter of the scouts actually watching the player on video, you nominate a scout to go to watch the player live a couple times. If the player passes, there's another filter. The scout will encounter and see the player 1v1, one-on-one. We'll have a dinner, we'll have a coffee, we'll meet the player. If he passes this filter, then it's where the head scout or myself will get involved for us to get to know the player. Because we're the ones in the day-to-day of the club, so we know the coach better than anyone.
Right.
The scouts are really important in the process, but they are located in Argentina, Brazil, Portugal, and etc. We're the ones that day-to-day watch training every day with the coach every day, and we understand the needs more than anybody. So I think the final assessment needs to be from myself or for the head scout. And then again, one-on-one. If it's not a one-on-one, it's a Zoom call. It's plenty of Zoom calls. It's understanding the player in the social media, understanding the surroundings, the family. Sometimes we talk to the wife, we talk to the girlfriend, we talk to the dad, to the mom.
What if there's another club interested at the same time, and it's like, fuck, if they already signing me, why should I do all of this? Does it happen or no?
It does. I don't like to enter into auctions with players. If there's another player interested, I know what our budget is. I know what our goal is. If the player is trying to play with us or the agent is trying to play with us, I think I'm very cool about it. I've learned how not to be married to players. I'm not married to any ideas. I'm not married to any players. So if player A negotiation is not working, let's go to player B. If I can tell like the players that I've worked with that were very successful and very good for the clubs that I've worked for, that were not the A option or the B option or the C option. Sometimes it's the Y option, and it works really well because again, you follow the process. Sometimes things happen in a way or another, and there's an element of luck as well, right?
Yeah. And then after that, doing the filter that you have, a meeting with them, then is the whole negotiation.
Yes.
The whole economics with the club, potentially, if they are not free agents, right? And then with the player.
The player with the agent, and that's the beauty of the business, right? And as I said, like the young Ricardo that was trying to drive something different in his country because the sporting directors were not taking care of the club's money. That's what I think the responsibility of the sporting director is. You know your budget, you know your limits, you know how much, not the player, but how much that negotiation is worth towards your ownership, towards the investor, towards the
right.
And again, if you follow the process that you created or that your club has, it's your chance to succeed is higher.
How long does it take from you scouting somebody until you are on like negotiation, potentially closing.
Don't forget that when you're buying a player, you're asking for someone else's money. For you to ask for someone else's money, you got to be certain,
Right.
or you got to minimize the risks of that thing not working out well for the club, right? So in order for you to ask money for someone else, hey, I want money, I want this X $1,000, X $1,000,000 to buy this player. Okay, you better do your background work really well.
Right. Do you have to show them? It's like, okay, this is the reason why it's worth X amount. Those are the videos. Those are my reports. This is the conversations that we had, kind of all back together.
I think in order to make a recommendation for ownership, for the investor, for the owner of the money, you got to do a very good process and a very good background work, because you have to justify your recommendation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think this kind of processes, sometimes people may think that, oh, that's a micromanagement type of thing, because you are doing like very detailed process and explaining things point by point. Yes, that makes everybody involved in the process better professionals, because you know what it takes for someone to put their money on a player or not. And I've been in this situation many times. From the moment that you scout a player, for the moment of signing a player, it usually takes 6 months to 1 year. I think, for example, now in June this year, we already started working for the transfer window of January and February in MLS. So it takes like 6 months. We have already scouts that went to games, interviewed players, met agents, and maybe things will work out and maybe things won't. But we're right in the middle to the final stages of a process to sign players for 2025 already.
Right. Do you speak with some of the players that you know to ask recommendations about character, things like that?
All the time. Coaches, teammates, everybody. Sometimes football is about context as well, right? So if a player is in a place where he's not succeeding, he's not playing well, and etc., you must have that in consideration while analyzing other people's opinion on the player, right? Sometimes he was not the right fit for that club, and people will not speak very highly of him.
Right.
But you have to balance that with the technical assessment that you have, and even the personal assessment that you have on him as well.
Right. There's clubs that ownership wants certain players. Also, then you have the coach, and the coach is like, I don't want these kind of players, but at the end they end up getting those players. Maybe you haven't had this experience, but that must be a hard position to be.
It's a very hard position to be. I think the experience that I had both in Brazil and in 2 clubs in MLS was that we, from the technical leadership, we had freedom to decide on which player to hire or not, which player to sell or not. I was fortunate that I worked in this type of environments where people follow the lead of the soccer experts per se. And I think if you're a smart sporting director, your head coach will be involved in the process every time. I believe that every signing is a club signing. The last word is the club's word, because some players you're signing to win on Sunday. Some players you're signing to win in 2025, 26, 27. So you have the club project, I think, is on top of the coach's ideas, or the coach's, because the coach wants to win Sunday and that's it. And then the next Sunday, and then the next Sunday, and then the next Sunday. So as a sporting directors, as managers, we have to think about the legacy, the medium to long-term project. So we are thinking ahead. But again, you're not a smart sporting director if you're coaching or involved in this process of medium long-term as well. Because in the end of the day, if he doesn't like the player, if the player doesn't fit his model, if the player doesn't fit his ideas or the culture fit as we spoke, he's not going to succeed in the club. So you got to involve at some point your head coach in the process of every player. And to your other point, when we do the one-on-one assessments on players, interview, Zoom, and etc., the head coach is always involved. Either the head coach or someone from the technical staff, an assistant coach, a strength and conditioning coach, someone that understands the coach really well, is part of that as well.
Right. So to me, it seems like your job, first of all, is figuring it out. What's the direction that the club wants to have? What's the style that you're gonna do? From there, bring a coach that can actually perform that type of style and bring in players of that. Otherwise, if you don't have a clear style of play, and we can put PSG as an example, they haven't won the Champions League, and to me, this is my opinion, feel like because they didn't figure out which style they want to play, they try with one coach want to play this style, all of a sudden doesn't work, but they bought a expensive roster, all of a sudden they kick him out, they bring another coach that's gonna play different type of style, but he has the players that play the old coach style. So is that, am I right in thinking of, okay, first is the vision, finding a way you want to play and build it from there?
I think so. I think that's the first step. It's also, I think, I'll give you the Orlando City example, right? When I think we had very different versions of Orlando City in these last 5 or 6 years, because when I first got to the club, and myself, Luis, and the other staff that we had, it was actually Luis's idea, and I followed his directions, obviously, because we were in a moment at the club in 2019 where we had to put the team in a position to compete and to be respected, period. And regardless of style of play, regardless of the long-term vision. So we had to buy credit in the bank in order for us to put our ideas moving forward. So the moment we succeed in this first plan, said, okay, now it's time for Orlando City 2.0. What is it now? Now we're going to invest higher on players. Now we're going to bring the players that we want. Now we're going to bring the players that will be here medium long term for us to be constantly successful.
So that pressure to perform right away was ownership, was fans, was
us, because to the example of myself and Luis, he was coming from a successful environment, and I was coming from a successful environment. So for us, it was like there was only one way to do things, and that was to be like put the team in a position to compete and make the playoffs. We didn't do it in our first year in 2019, and lots of assessments and trying to build a different roster. We made to the semifinals of the US Open Cup, which was already something good for us that year. We almost made the playoffs, but from 2020 on, every year or every 2 years, every 3 years, we discuss with ownership a 3-year plan. So okay, for the next 3 years, that's what we're gonna do. That's the amount of money that we want to invest. That's the type of player that we want to bring. Those are the players that are not gonna fit in this new cycle, in this new model. And thankfully things are being positive.
Now MLS are getting a lot of younger players, more and more, and actually transition from being a place where people would come and retire, like Beckham's, Thierry Henry's, Pirlo's, all of those, to now a league that is selling players and also giving opportunities to very young kids. For you, that you are signing players, do you like that idea of like getting way younger kids to kind of put it up there, or you gotta have a mix?
I think a mix, a balance of it, depending on your roster, depending on how your roster is being constructed throughout the years. I think a balance is always positive. I think you have to have a spine of players that are like more mature, they're more experienced, that knows how to win, that know how to lose, and that know what it takes for you to get there. And I think by doing so, you're gonna have good influences for the young players, for them to succeed. The example that I give to you is what we've been doing with our second team. In MLS Next Pro, we have one of the youngest rosters in the league, but we signed a couple of players to the second team specifically, more experienced, that already played professional, for them to be like the driving force of the team that would influence those players. And not by coincidence, we're the only club in MLS Next Pro that sold a player directly to Europe, that plays now for the under-19s. He's the captain of the under-19s of Spain now, Alejandro Granados. He was playing in OCB with us. He played center back, he played defensive mid, he played winger, he played number 10, because we were trying, he was 15 to 16 years old, we were trying to get the most out of him, putting him in every, and as a good Spanish player, he was already an all-around player,
right?
In this very unique Spanish style. and very good kid, American Spanish, and we sold him directly to a club in Belgium, and we made a good profit for MLS Next Pro because we believed that him surrounded with more experienced players
Right.
would develop better.
Is there a formula that you crack that you say, okay, like at least need like 20% experience, 40% very young, and kind of then on the middle, or
I think
just,
for this type
it
of
depends?
environment in a second league per se, I think you need like at least 3 or 4 players.
Uh-huh.
And I would say the same thing for a first team. In MLS is very particular. In MLS, I think you must have players with experience in this league because
Right.
of the travel, because of the weather, because of the rules, because of everything that involves MLS.
Right. For you, if you could have like a blank check, do you have 5 kids that you would sign right now? I know there's millions out there, but like if they tell you just no salary caps, nothing, just get these
Yes,
5.
of course. I have my list. You don't want to know about it, right?
I want to know the 5.
Off record.
Oh, right. Okay, fair. But I mean,
Maybe they're the next DPs. You never know.
yeah, fair. Okay. What is the most important part of your job?
To sell an idea. I think that's the most important part of my job. Up and down.
Up and down.
And sideways.
Right.
I think I like to think that we're always trying to convince people to run or to walk in the same direction, right? And obviously you have direction from ownership on where they want this club to be, but you are the guardian of the strategy of the club, right? You are the one influencing people, directing people into what direction
Right.
you want the club to go, and ownership wants the club to go. So I think selling up, selling down, selling sideways is really important.
Right. So when you get to that point that everybody is on board, this is a very cruel business because it's based on wins and losses, right? You could be on the right track on process-wise, but you're not getting the results for any reasons, which is it happens a lot. How do you deal once you figure out, okay, this is how we want to do, but you're not getting the results, pressure comes up?
I think you're always chasing that scenario. I don't think we are ever gonna get to the scenario where everybody's conscious of the idea, of the way we're playing, of the results, of the strategy. I think it's a constant learning, and I think it's a constant adaptation of the strategy and the idea in face of the results, and in face sometimes you're getting the results and you're not playing well. So people are questioning the ideas, and people are questioning the strategy. Sometimes you're playing really well, you have a really good culture, you have a really defined style of play, and people know what your club is about, but you're not getting the results. Sometimes you're doing all of that, and you're not selling players. So people are questioning, like, why are not they participating in the global market? Sometimes you are doing all of that, you're selling players, winning, and you're playing well, but you're not connected to the fans. Well, why are they doing this way? Because they're not connecting with the community. So I think it's a constant learning, it's a constant adaptation. You have a goal, and you're gonna work towards this goal.
Right.
And I think even if you win a championship, people are not gonna be satisfied, and you're not gonna be satisfied. I know that I'm not gonna be satisfied, because the moment we win, the moment we won, and the moment hopefully we win again, I'll be already thinking on the next day, okay, what's now? Because as I told you, Orlando City 1.0, 2.0, okay, what's next? We won the MLS Cup. What's next? How do we do to be dominant in this league?
Right.
What do we do now to be dominant in the CONCACAF? So, and that changes the direction. That changes the strategy, because what it takes to win the MLS is not the same that it takes to win the CONCACAF or the Open Cup or the World Club Championship and so on. So I think it's a constant learning, and it's a constant moving into the goal, into the sun.
Right.
But things will change along the way. You gotta adapt.
You gotta adapt, right?
You gotta adapt.
So it's funny because I met with a group that they bought some clubs in Europe, and the way they approach it based on the process. So they know the process that they want to follow, and they incentivize coaches and players for hitting those key stats that will follow process. For example, a coach will not get a bonus a win bonus. Instead, he will get a bonus if their players shoot 15 times on target. So, which is curious, right? Because
It is.
they think that if they can do the things that will make successful through the process, uh, they understand that they may lose, they may win, but if they do that constantly, they will be successful. So they encourage and give bonuses to coaches and players to do those things, thinking that doing those things will get the points.
I like this idea, and we have some sort of this type of structure in the academy and the second team for coaches mainly. Like, you're not there. Winning is important in the youth because you are creating winning mentality in the players. You are putting yourself out there so that improves your recruitment in the area. So if you're beating the teams in Florida, the parents in Florida will say like, okay, I want my kid to play for that club and not the other one that is always losing. But I think we're incentivizing coaches and the staff to be successful in developing players, developing better men, developing better player to college and to the first team. That's the goal in the youth. But I think in the reality that we are in MLS, I think in a first team level, it's winning is what matters. There's always obviously small wins. If you don't win, doesn't mean that you failed, because only one is going to win. And it was hard for me to learn that because I was constantly thinking that I was doing something wrong. Obviously, I have to improve lots of things, and we have to improve lots of things, and it's a constant learning. But the fact that, okay, this year I haven't won anything, it's not that we failed, because we're building towards the sun that I told you. Like, okay, that's the goal in the end of the day. But you have to account for the small wins as well. You have to celebrate them, and you have to acknowledge them, because every time you're developing a player, or you're selling a player, or a player that you brought is succeeding, or that idea that the coach implemented is working really well, or the development, the movement of players from a club, from a second team to a first team or to the academy is working, those are wins that you have to acknowledge. But I think in a competitive scenario like the MLS, I struggle to see an idea like that one of counting the stats as the only wins.
Right.
Very difficult.
Right. How do you manage the relationship with players? Because I know your position, you are looking always for new players. So for players, look at you, oh, fuck, this guy is gonna get rid of me. He's gonna find new people, or the guys that you brought in, you may have a personal connection. How do you navigate those waters?
My first job as a head of recruitment in this league, when I was introduced to the players in an auditorium in a different club. I was introduced and everybody said hello and etc. And I was walking out of the auditorium. One of the players, a striker, came to me and said like, okay, so you are the guy that is going to replace me here in the club? And I was quick enough to say, of course, when I sell you to Man United, I'll need a replacement.
There you go.
And everybody started laughing and etc. But I think that's it. I think players understand. I don't think players like to move as well. They want different clubs, they want different leagues, they want different experience. So eventually they will move or be moving, and that's part of the game. And that happens with me as well. That happens with the sporting directors as well. I'm not going to be sitting in the same chair in Orlando City for 20 years, and very few players are going to play for the same team. We don't have a lot of Francesco Totti's
right.
out there, right? So they know that it's part of improving, it's part of making the club better, and it's also put a good pressure on them. Like, okay, I have to perform here because this team have a good recruiting team here. I know that they're looking for talent everywhere, and that's constant, so I have to perform. Otherwise, they're going to find a replacement for me. And we have to be prepared for the market as well. We'll never know when a player is going to injure. We never know when a player is going to receive an offer from a different club, and that he will engage in that and try to move. The relationship has to be honest. Honesty is something that we learned as kids that we have to implement and do in every relationship that we have, and it's not different with players. So I try to be very friendly with players. I love to be constantly around them, but I also learned that sometimes locker room is their moment. When they're having a meal together is their moment. When we're in trips and they're together in the plane or in the meal room, it's their moment. I will approach them when I think they need my support, we will approach them and invite them to have lunch, to have a coffee, to sit down in my office, and etc. When I think they need support, when I think they need clarity, when I think, with my experience, someone in the club is not giving them the clarity or the direction that they need. And everything that I do is to help them perform in this club, in the club that I'm working for. And I think that brings some sort of loyalty in our relationship that also gives me the freedom to be direct to them. Hey, you know that this is the issue. We saw this issue. We assessed this issue. There's a problem here. I've been trying to help you. It's not working. Let's move. Let's go in a different direction. I had cases within the past where players that played for me or for the club that I was working for tried to come back and called me, and I said, no, this is not the right movement for you. I think you need to go there because I think that's the best thing that could happen in your career. And 6 months later, the player's calling me like, hey, you're right. I was mad at you because I thought you didn't want me. But it's just like the club moved into a different direction. And your position now is different. Now we need a different sort of talent there.
Absolutely. And it's like every player is different, right? And for me, if you tell me we don't want you anymore because we are looking for this or that, or there's honesty, I would say this is business, I understand. But there's people or players that can lead that with friendship, and then all of a sudden you're saying we don't want you anymore. So it's a tricky situation, but honesty,
and I think not to renew a player, not to sign a player, or to sell a player is easy. The tough part in this business, especially in this league, is to trade a player. That's the part that's the part of my job that I don't like.
Right.
Because as I told you in the beginning, for me, people and culture are the most important things in the business of soccer, in the business of football. I like to say that I don't work in the business of football, I work in the business of people, because we need as I said, a positive environment, a good environment, enhance the culture so people can perform and can succeed, and the club can succeed, and eventually I will succeed with the group. But I think when you trade a player without him knowing anything, without him knowing what is happening in the background, that's the part that I struggle with, because this connection that I have with the players, and as you asked me, sometimes I don't have conversations or one-on-ones or right-to-right with the player for a year or 6 months, but he knows that I'm there. I know that he's there. He knows he can count on me, and he knows that when the time comes, I'll be honest, I'll be direct, and I think that's what they want, and I think that's what they appreciate the most, because that will give them clarity and direction in their careers.
Is there any extra thing that you have done to go above and beyond to make a player more happy, more feeling like home?
I've learned with Mr. Ancelotti in Real Madrid, the Real Madrid coach, and I learned that by reading his book, by reading lots of things about him, by listening to players that played with him, to get sometimes players into a comfort zone so you can understand him better. What do I mean by that? I don't like having meetings with players in my office. I don't like having meetings with players in the training facilities. So every time I think that the player needs different treatment, or to listen to something, or to be able to tell you something, I take them to somewhere outside. I like to have a coffee, I like to have dinner, I like to have lunch. And I think this is the thing that I think I do that it goes above and beyond that they know about. There are many things in the background, like the way you sell a necessity of the club to ownership or among the staff, to make the players feel like that the only thing that they need to do is to train, to practice, and perform. Mm-hmm. And I think everything that we've been doing in the last 6 years, for example, where we were and where we are right now, in terms of our structure, in terms of the equipment, in terms of the staff, the quality of the staff that we have to support the players, in terms of everything that they have to be worthy only about performing, is one of the things that in the background happen, and that they don't know about, or maybe they don't think about it.
Right.
But it's a struggle every day to get to where we are, and we want to go above and beyond still.
Yeah, and I know you guys do. When I was in Orlando, you really take care of the families. If there's any problem, you always are there for it. And as a player, you value that a lot. Those are intangibles that is like, I want to stay here because they really understand us. They make us feel like home. They have ways to put our families in a better place here and there. Details that matter a lot that it's not quantified.
And I think it comes from my personal experience, Woody, because when we've decided to create a player care department in the club, and I think the guys that work there with us, Pedro, Danny, they do an amazing job in supporting players and families, is because when I moved to the US, I was 30 years old and I was starting a family. So I was basically around the age of the players. So I was moving to a new country, I was starting a family, so I was struggling as well. And as I told you, coming from a good background, coming from a good family with options, I still struggled. And sometimes my reality is not the reality of every player, so they struggle more than I was struggling. So I felt like, again, because we're so worried about, and I'm so worried and concerned about people and culture, I think supporting them off the field,
it's key.
The only place I cannot support them is on the field.
Right.
Because that when the ball start rolling, that's on them.
That's on them.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's do whatever we can to support them off the field.
Right. No, and especially like coming from different cultures,
exactly,
settling down, maybe they don't speak English, and it's just food-wise, everything it's new. They are usually very young age. So there's a process here that the more you guys can help that side, the better they will perform on the field.
We have 17 nationalities within the same club.
Right. So let me ask you, when you negotiate contracts with different nationalities, how different is your negotiation style with different countries?
Yeah, I think it changes based on the agents, I would say. And I think with experience, you learn that there are some countries where people are more direct. There are some countries where people will play with you a little bit. There are some countries where people will be pretending something that they are not, and that's part of the game. And you learn with experience how to read people, how to read agents, how to read other clubs, and etc. And you get a little bit of things here and there as well to play yourself.
Right.
And position yourself better in the market as well.
Because I'm assuming that maybe if you speak with, I don't know, Argentinians or Brazilians, maybe they say, okay, no, we want 5 million, but you know that literally you can go to 1 million. Usually, right? Or maybe you're speaking with, I don't know, Scandinavians, and they say it's 1 million, and no, this is 1 million. There's no, they don't want to play this game or things like that. Is it real?
It is. It changes from country to country, from people to people.
Which one is the most difficult to negotiate?
Ooh, that's tough. I'm not going to say that on record because I'm probably negotiating with a player from there right now.
Okay.
But I think South America is the most difficult
South
one.
America, right?
Yeah, also because the competition is harder. Clubs around the globe, they're always looking to South America as probably the first resource on talent, the first resource on players. And as MLS is growing and connecting itself much more with South America, the deal with Apple TV facilitated a lot. So we have people in every country in South America watching MLS more than they ever watch it. So I think the competition is greater. The things that MLS, with its rules, I think it's very helpful in negotiations because you know your limits, you know what you can get, where you can go.
You don't get caught. You mean like salary cap?
Salary cap and all the rules, so you don't get caught in some tricky parts of negotiations. Sometimes you know your limits,
like bids and stuff like that.
You know your limits and you follow the rules, and it's easier.
Right. How, for example, Fabrizio Romano, right? You see that there's the talks about this and that. How does it affect you having a negotiation, like those guys putting out there? Is it real? Is you guys don't care?
I like to say, always listen to the media, always listen to the fans. Never listen to the media, never listen to the fans. I don't get caught in what the media says and what sometimes the fans are saying about a player X, a player Z, because you know how things work, like agents feeding journalists and people with information, leaking things here and there to get an advantage in a negotiation. So I try not to look.
But for example, you want to sign this player, and you are doing under the radar because he could be the next thing. And all of a sudden, the agent, you know what? Now I want a little bit more money. I'm gonna put it out there that we are in negotiation. So the 3 or 4 that they were thinking at some point making an offer, now they hurry up. Is that they actually like can trigger these things, or
That happens.
that happens?
That happens, but as I told you before, I'm never married to an idea. I'm never married to a player. So
Right. No,
if
but I
the
mean in
agent-
general. In
yeah,
general.
no, I know. But if they are using that to get some sort of leverage in negotiation, that will not affect me.
Right. You may lose the player at some
I
point.
may lose the player, and let's go to the next one. And the only one that I'm married to is my wife. So
What's the strangest request a player made to you?
we had a strange request of a player that was requesting a different color of salmon in the meal room, in the meal. So we had
What?
like, what's the color of the salmon? It's like
Orangey,
red, orange,
yeah.
pinky.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, that's not the true salmon. The true salmon is a white one.
Really?
Okay, what do we do now?
So you had to change the whole.
We had to change everything.
Now you went to Alaska, finding the right salmon,
Exactly.
and just bring it back.
Exactly.
And what is the strangest?
We need to create the salmon care department.
What's the strangest clause that they ask for?
That's why. That's what I told you. That one of the things that is really good in working for an MLS club, that the clauses are pretty much standard. So
Yeah,
that's
but
the
they
part
could
of-
ask you, right?
They will ask, but I'm trying to think of something. I had an agent asking for. Well, that's not a very uncommon one, but it's a really strange one. I had agents asking for flight tickets for the whole family of the agent.
Oh, wow.
To be coming and going to the country to watch the player play every week, and I was like, no, that's not part of the deal. So
Maybe for the players, but
maybe for the for the family of the player, we can work something out. Obviously, if it's under the cap and if it's under the rules, but with the family of the agent,
Right,
unfortunately, that's not part of our.
I thought
of our
that
umbrella.
maybe fly my dog or things like that.
Fly the dog is a constant one. Yeah,
It's a
it's a
common
constant
one.
one. It's a common one. It's a
It's a
common
common
one.
one. What is the deal? You don't have to tell the player, but that you suffered the most, meaning like you really wanted that player and you vouched for it, but negotiations were tough. There was a moment like that.
There are always moments like that. As I told you, I mean, I'm not married to an idea. I'm not married to a player, but obviously we have our priorities and we have the players that we like the most. So we strive to get the best we can out of the negotiations, and we always go to the point where we give everything to sign a player, basically in the money side of things and in the effort side of things and the negotiation side of things. I mean, I'm not saying that we treat every player as we can't discardable. No, we have our priorities obviously, and we focus on them and we try to sign the players that we want. And there were cases where I had to negotiate a player throughout the whole day during Christmas with my family at home, the whole day during New Year's Eve, during New Year's Day, because there was just the reality of the business. And everything that I heard was no, 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 no. So to be in a moment where you're in the most special moment maybe of the year with your family, but your head is already thinking on how you're going to build the roster and the squad for the next year, and you are just hearing no's, 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 and no's. Sometimes you go like, okay, what do we do now? Because sometimes, as I told you, we lose player A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then you go like, okay, what's next? What's next? And you're at your house, your head scouting his home, and your GM is elsewhere, and the owner is elsewhere. So it's really tense, it's really stressful. But in the end of the day, that's what we love. That's what we like doing. It's playing Football Manager live.
Right.
And there was a particular negotiation of a player that it was during Christmas, during New Year's, doing throughout almost the whole month of January. That when you're signing a GP is different because you want the specific one. You know that's the one that is gonna help you the most. You don't have many options as in we're talking about a GP that will make the difference for your club. So when we eventually signed the player, it was a relief, and seeing that the results were much better than we could ever expect made things worth. But sometimes people in your surroundings don't understand that.
Right.
That's what it takes to some
Right,
players.
right. In a way, like players, right? They miss birthdays. They may miss the funeral of their grandfather.
Exactly.
Things like that. And for you guys, it's the same thing.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Maybe we have a little bit more flexibility because if the team is on the road and something happens, maybe you're not required to be there. You can send someone else from the staff. So that's the part that we have an easier life than the players, I would say, because you can replace a player, right? If something happens to the player, he needs to play. He's the one playing there. Staff-wise, in the office,
right?
Maybe for a day or two, you can fill a gap here and there.
Is there any player that was taken last minute from you?
Oh yeah, that was taken to another club that we sold last minute.
No, sold. Like you were about like inking and all the time. Like, you know what? I got a better offer. I'm leaving.
Yes.
How you feel?
I take it in a cold way, in a cold heart, understanding that's part of the business.
Probably next day, not the same day though.
Not the same day,
Right.
yeah, a couple of days. Take a couple of days, but there were cases of players that we had everything signed and the player went elsewhere, and then I met the player a couple of months later in a different club in a different scenario, and everything was like, okay, man, it was a shame. It was a pity that we didn't get to work together, but maybe in the future.
And maybe
we
you
never
guys
know.
did the same on the other side. Maybe
We
you
have
guys...
done the same in the other side as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes we are negotiating a player until the last minute, and you're negotiating with your option B as well.
Right.
Because if this one fails, you have the other one already
Right. How
ready
do
to
you
step
keep
in.
them on the hook though? How you keep them ready?
Yeah, there are ways of keep them ready because sometimes in negotiations you go harder and then you soft a little bit and then you wait for the other club and there are ways of playing good and bad copy here and there.
So me having to negotiate with you, I could see if there was somebody negotiating with you at the same time for the way you respond or you go hard.
Maybe we make this transparent.
Right.
And I don't think it's a bad way because sometimes you're negotiating with a club and with an agent, and the player also has 2, 3, or 4 options.
Right.
So that's part of the business.
When kids try out, they may think that's the only chance they have if there's a scouting there to make it to the next level. Is that true, or really a good player, even if he has a bad day on tryouts, still can find opportunities to show up?
Definitely. I think there's always going to be the next opportunity. It's like missing a goal during practice or missing a goal during the game. You're just focused on the next opportunity. Obviously, you're going to take it to the heart in the beginning, but I believe in second, third, fourth chances. I never forget of the case of Cafu, the right back, one of the best right backs in the history of the game. He was rejected by clubs in Brazil 7 or 8 times before making it to São Paulo and becoming the player that he became. He played, maybe he's the only player in the history, we got to check that, to play 3 World Cup finals in a sequence, 1994, 1998, 2002. He was the captain in 2002 when Brazil won. And he was rejected by clubs in tryouts for like 7 or 8 times before making it to São Paulo FC.
Right. What advice would you give to the parents that they're trying to, make their kids soccer stars?
Shut up, listen to the coach, let your kids have fun. If they become soccer players, they will become soccer players. If they don't, they don't. Let the kids live their dream. Don't let your kid live your dream. I have a kid. He's 6 years old, right? João, you know him well. He just turned 6 a couple of days ago. And the experience for me with João, because he's addicted to soccer since day one, and he's in that phase of collecting stickers and watching every game of football, and he's playing with himself, by himself, and he pretends that he's Vinicius Junior, that he's Gabigol, that he's Bellingham, whatever, Cristiano, that he loves. He connected myself with the old Ricardo. So he's the one that reminds me every day why I do what I do. Because sometimes I go like, it's just a job. I'm working in a sports club, in a soccer club. So it's just a job, and I go there at 8 a.m. and I go back at home at 6 p.m. No. I do what I do because I was that kid 30 years ago. So that connects me with what soccer is for me, what soccer means to myself. And when I see him playing and I see the other parents, because now I'm a recruiter, I'm a sporting director, but I'm also a soccer dad already,
Right.
because he's playing tournaments and he's training futsal. And when when sometimes I want to give him an advice, I want to tell him something, and I go like, no, 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 he's still in the phase, and I think it goes until they're like 10 or 11 years old that they're falling in love with the game, because it takes a lot to be a professional soccer player. It becomes a job. It becomes something that you're gonna do every now and then. Think about a tennis player that practice probably 350 days a year. They practice in the morning when they're playing in the afternoon, which is something crazy. It's repetition. It's constant repetition and learning, repetition and learning. And in order to do so, you gotta love what you're doing. Otherwise, you're not gonna do it well. Otherwise, you're gonna struggle at some point. Think about the example of Andre Agassi that was like super talented, but he was not particularly in love with tennis. So he struggled a lot. He had big issues with his understanding of the sport, with his family that was supporting and maybe putting some pressure on him. His biography is amazing when he tells the details of it. So when I see the parents talking to the kids or forcing the kids to do something or coaching them, let them fall in love with the game. If they fall in love with the game and they're talented, things are gonna work out well for them. And what does that mean? It means they're either becoming pro, they're gonna get a scholarship and play for college, or they're gonna go to sport, or they're gonna be addicted to a sport. Whatever the sport is, that's at least mine and my wife's goals with our kids. Let them fall in love with the sport and enjoy it for life, because I think they will build character, they will build personality, they will build many things. If they become pros, it's great for them, if that's what they want. So don't coach them, don't put pressure on them, don't let them live your dreams. Let them live their dreams. Let them fall in love with the game first. If they fall in love with the game, things will work out.
Awesome. How complicated is the MLS with salary caps versus South America, Europe? How makes your job easier, or
No, it's complicated in the sense that only the ones in MLS understand the rules, right? It's difficult to explain the rules of MLS to people that are not in this environment. But I think it creates a better professional in terms of, if you are a sporting director, if you're a recruiter, like a scout, you become better because your foreign rules, they're really strict. It's complicated in MLS when you hire a player and you fail, and this player fails, because to substitute the player is really difficult in this business that we are in MLS, because of the rules that we have. So again, it makes the process better, because you know that you have to follow certain rules and you have to follow certain processes in order for that player to
jeopardize
succeed.
your ability to get players that there are other beats outside of MLS.
It does. It's different, because you have so many rules and roster restrictions that sometimes you lose opportunities just by the way the rules are structured. But I think at the end of the day, I see this in a positive way. You see leagues around the world now. There are talks in Europe about creating salary caps in leagues in Europe, because spending is being outrageous in some of the leagues in Europe. And I think, going back to the person that I was very critical to sporting directors back in my country back in the days, I think one thing is, like, you're a successful sporting director after you spend $500 million and you hired 55 players and 11 of them were good and you win the championship. Does that make you a good sporting director? Not for me. That made you a champion. Congrats to you, kudos to you, because you're a champion. But that not necessarily for me makes you a sporting director. So working under certain management rules and regulations and being successful under them, I think makes you an amazing professional after you win.
Tell us the story about Ferran Soriano.
Ferran Soriano is a story that not many people know, but you do, obviously.
We don't have to.
He was a big influencer in my career, because back in the days, it connects with everything that I'm telling you about what my drive was to become a soccer professional, sporting director, because I think the title of his book resumes or summarizes everything that I'm saying. The ball doesn't go in by chance. In other words, like, you gotta do a background management process work in order for things to succeed on the field. That's what he did in Barcelona. That's what he's been doing with the City Group. And back in the days when I was a lawyer, I was dealing with Man City in a case in the FIFA courts. And by chance as well, he was copied in one of the email exchanges with Man City. And I was like, okay, this guy is my idol. He's doing everything that I want to do in my career. I was still a lawyer. And I was doing a sports management course back in the days in Brazil. So I'm going to send him a message. I'm going to send him an email, shoot a message here telling him just like, hey, how much I admire him, how much I would like to be like him someday. And I sent him an email with no expectations. And he replied like within 5 minutes in Portuguese, because then I learned that he lived in São Paulo for 6 or 7 years. He was working for a company that had its headquarters in Brazil. And we connected. The next week, we're talking on the phone. And I was a little bit lost on what I really wanted to do in soccer. I knew that I wanted to be a sporting director. I didn't know how to get there. So I spoke with him. He connected me with a lot of people in Man City, in the City Group back then. And that was 2011, 2012. And by having a conversation with one of his peers, one of his teammates there, the conversation started with the guy asking the club that I cheered for, and I asked him, and he said Real Sociedad. And when he said Real Sociedad, I started telling him the lineup for Real Sociedad 2000, 2001, 2001, 2002, and Kesman this and this and that. And the guy was like, how do you know Real Sociedad so well? And I'm like, I don't know. I never studied them. I just like love sports. I love players. So there was a team that was playing really well. And I memorized. And he was like, no, you know what? I think you have a future in recruiting, in identifying players and identifying talent, because it's amazing that you're telling me that you're leaving Brazil. You're telling me the lineup of Real Sociedad.
Coming from Ferran Soriano, those are good words.
Yeah, it was really good words. And I think that opened my mind. It was, okay, the first step for me is to actually understand how scouting and recruitment works. And my first job as a sporting director in Brazil, I cannot say that I was the one responsible. We did really well, but I was not solely responsible for recruiting players. I never was, and we always work as a group. But when I was working for Audax in Brazil, when we recruited really well, when we did really well, we made it to the first division and etc., I was learning so much, but we didn't have any softwares. We didn't have Y-Scout. We're not like...
Right.
We're like the old school scouting, like this player, that player, this one has the talent, this one doesn't. And it was such a good school for me, like listening from Ferran, that was probably my route. And then understanding in a third division club what true scouting was.
Right.
That made me for sure a better professional.
Right,
It was an amazing story. Until nowadays, I talk to Ferran and we exchange WhatsApps here and there, because I still follow him. I still admire him a lot. And I went to Manchester already a couple of times to visit him, and we watched a couple of Champions League games together. And it's just he's been so successful in what he's doing.
To me, what's impressive is that you reach out first, like out of the blues, no expectations, and he, being at higher position, replied to you when you were young, and kind of
that was amazing.
Took you under your wing.
I admire him a lot for
nothing,
that.
Right?
I admire him a lot for that, because I imagine how many emails or messages or people reaching out to him every day, and he chose one or a couple or maybe 100 and answered, and was like, I'm grateful for that.
That's wild. And look at you now. I mean, someday you may replace him, so who knows? Who knows? Last ones. True, or I know you are a very, very good with dribbler. By the way, I heard that you're very good at pickups with the staff. You show them around.
Maybe, yeah.
I'm gonna read you facts, and you gotta tell me if it's true or not. In 1998, Real Madrid signed a player from the Spanish lower leagues for 1 million after being impressed by a YouTube video of him juggling oranges.
1998?
Yes.
False.
True.
It wasn't YouTube then. YouTube wasn't there in 1998.
I don't know. That's you sure?
I don't know. Maybe
I think
it was.
so. I think 1998.
Okay. 1998. 98. I think they won the Champions League in 98, right? Mijatovic goal against Borussia.
I mean, that's what I see.
Okay. I believe you.
Arsenal once signed a player in 1999 after he submitted a VH tape of himself scoring goals while playing against his friends in a park.
True.
False.
Wow, come on.
Cristiano Ronaldo was once traded for 22 footballs and a set of new jerseys to a local Portuguese club when he was 12 years old.
True.
Truth. Correct, bravo. Lionel Messi was once offered to play for Chelsea, but he turned down the offer because he didn't like the color blue.
False.
False.
He's Argentinian. He loves the color blue. Come on.
Gareth Bale transfer to Real Madrid was so expensive that it required Madrid to take out a special bank loan to complete the deal.
That's true. And that's amazing in how soccer impacts the world, right? Because I remember when I'm saying things with no facts, but as a fan and as someone that is passionate about football, when Real Madrid signed, I think Kaká and Cristiano, Spain was facing a big economic crisis, and it took special loans from banks, and people were criticizing a lot Real Madrid for doing that, or for the banks for granting this loan for a football club to hire players while the country was in such a big crisis. But in 2 or 3 days, they made a profit out of it and paid back because
with the shirts, and I mean it's
amazing.
It's nuts. Yeah. Luis Suarez was signed by Barcelona for 150 million, along with a lifetime supply of Uruguayan steak.
False.
False.
That's a good one.
Barcelona once made an official inquiry to sign David Beckham, but he chose to sign for Real Madrid.
True.
True. Well done. In 2013, Tottenham Hotspur included a clause in Gareth Bale's transfer to Real Madrid stating that he could not be sold back to the Premier League club for at least 5 years.
True. And that's a very good clause. Kudos for Tottenham for that.
Do you do this kind of clauses too?
I think it's a really good clause.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do agents fight for it?
Yeah. There are triggers there, but I think if you're protecting your club, I think especially my position, I would protect the club from seeing a good player succeeding in a rival. I think it's something.
What's the most common clause that there's always a fight for?
The percentage of or the details in a future sale. What counts, what doesn't count. If a bonus that the player is reaching in a club counts as a part of the future sale,
right.
If it doesn't. But I think clubs are always trying to protect themselves seeing players succeeding elsewhere. You want to be part of it as well because you were part of the growth and the development of the player. So
right.
You want to be profiting or participating in the gains and the profits of the related to this player in the future. This is one of the clauses.
I thought you would say like the commission of the agent.
Oh no, that's that's written in the stone that this is a problem.
That's usually what, 10%?
That's usually 10%. Yeah, between 5 and 10%. FIFA is trying to regulate that, which I think it's a great idea. MLS always also has strict regulations to how and when and how much we can pay agents. So that's a very good thing that MLS did to protect clubs.
Yeah. Last one. When Andrés Iniesta moved to Japan, his contract included a deal for him to promote a wine brewery owned by the club chairman.
True. Yeah. It's a very good beer, by the way.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm not going to say the name of the beer unless they sponsor your podcast.
Ronaldinho once signed with the Mexican team for a year with a clause that allowed him to host beach parties in the middle of the season.
Querétaro, yes, I think that's true.
I have it as false, but I believe it's true.
I don't. Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't on the clause, but maybe it was.
Yeah.
Samuel Eto'o once signed with the Russian team, Anzi Maklakala, for a salary that made him the highest paid player in the world at the time.
That's true. Yeah, he played with Roberto Carlos. I think William Borges played for Fulham, and Arsenal played for this club as well in the past. And João Carlos, a Brazilian centre back.
Carlos Tevez once joined Manchester United from West Ham United under a complicated ownership arrangement with a third party, which caused a legal dispute.
That's true.
Where did you follow that?
Yeah, I was involved in that at some point. Yeah.
How?
Yeah, I was the lawyer of the club that sold Carlos Tevez to West Ham in the first place, Corinthians. So Corinthians had a percentage of a future sale, So that was something that went to the FIFA courts and the Court of Arbitration for Sport. There was a intense dispute, I could say.
Right.
But I left the dispute in the middle because I moved elsewhere. Yeah.
Okay, last one. Would you negotiate your son's contract against yourself if he has to sign with a top player?
If my son is playing soccer professionally in the future, I would be a very proud soccer dad sitting on the stands and cheering for him. And that's all.
That's all.
Not getting involved in anything.
No.
Now, if he becomes a soccer player, and that's also an advice for parents, have someone supporting you, advising your son. Every kind of professional support I think it would be welcomed by your son, by the player. A dad has to be a dad, and an agent has to be an agent. And again, seeing the examples that we got to learn from the best, right? What happened with Lewis Hamilton, his relationship with his dad, Andre Agassi, his relationship with his dad, and many others.
Even Messi, no?
Maybe. I'm not aware of that, but maybe. I think if you're a dad, you're a dad. Don't make things around, because your son will need an advice in the future from his father, from his dad.
Right.
And are you the dad? Are you the agent? What are your goal there, right?
Right. There's a lot of players that their dads represent them somehow, and even if they want the best for their kids, sometimes it could be.
If the dad is the agent and you're negotiating a contract and you are earning a commission out of it as an agent, at what point you are the true benefit for your son? There, where's the true benefit for your son? Are you looking to your commission, or the success of your kids? So
right,
I just don't believe
and
that.
players just have one dad, so.
You have one dad, you can change agents for sure, and you have one dad, you can change your dad.
Right. Are you pro or against players representing themselves?
I think it's challenging. I think for me it's the same thing as the sporting director that is also a coach. I think there's a conflict there in the middle. I think there are players that are really smart and understand a contract, they understand a negotiation, that can be part of it. At some point you can have a true conversation, a true negotiation, a true conversation with the player, but the negotiation should be held by the agent.
I'll give you the athlete version, and I think you're right. And the reason why is because I want to be a part of the negotiation, some sort of part. At least you understand where I am.
Of course.
The reasons why I want to sign or not sign or whatever. But it's hard for me to go hard against you, knowing that I'm gonna see you every once in a while. Maybe our relationship wouldn't be the same, like calling our names and all of that, because negotiation is negotiation, and I think having somebody do it for you.
And Uri, it's never personal.
Right.
The negotiation is never personal. I'm not paying you X amount of money because I don't like you, because I don't think you deserve it. It's because I have a budget to respect. I have a cap to respect. I have other players to take care of, right? It's not only one. Mm-hmm. It's not unlimited amount of money. It's not unlimited spaces in the roster or in the cap. So it's very helpful, as you said, to start a negotiation, understanding the player, where his head is, what does he want for him, his family, what is his medium, long-term project as a player. Hey, I want to sign with you now, but I expect to be sold in an X amount of years. I want to be in this club forever. I want to do this. I want to do that. That's my expectations. That's who I'm comparing myself with in the league or in the world or whatever. Okay, now that I know where your head is, I have some basis on and I know what I can do.
Right.
I have a starting point of like, okay, that's what I can do for you.
Right.
And I have plenty of cases of players that we were negotiating with the agent, we're not finding an agreement, and the player knocks in your door and say, hey man, I really want to stay here. Please find a way. This is my expectations. We're saying this, you're saying that, but I wanna be here. Let's try to find a way, and etc. And shows a good character and shows a good will of finding an agreement. Right. The bad part, the bad thing is when we start a negotiation, and the player or the agent thinks that, okay, it's personal, he doesn't like me, he doesn't want to give me that, he doesn't give me this. No, let's sit down and understand. If you understand where I come from in terms of other players that I have to take care of, the cap rules and the regulations, and I understand your expectations, we're going to eventually find an agreement.
Right. If you want me, I want to stay.
I want you, you want to stay, let's find a way.
And also, like, I think the intangibles are something that are very important.
100%.
Right? Because if my future is to stay at the club, maybe coach at the future, whatever, then you can find a place where say, okay, we will put you under 14s, you will have this amount of experience, so when you retire, you will be ready to take any job you want. These kind of things adds a lot of value for a player.
Of course.
That it's not monetarily on the cap. Right?
Exactly. No, you guys value me here. I'm playing a lot of minutes. I'm starting. I have an offer from X team, and I know that for there is going to be a struggle. I have to fight for a position, and the city is not nice, and my family will not adapt. So I want to stay here because this, and that. Sometimes not only about the money, it's about the project as a whole.
Right.
For the players and for the staff as well.
And for the football.
And for the football.
That's it, my friend. Appreciate it. Thank you so
my
much.
friend. It was really good. Thank you.